All right, guys, how's it going? Tell me if the music's too loud or anything like that, please. There's a few of you here already, but I guess it's because it's Saturday. It's usually why it's just better to stream on Saturdays, honestly. Am I coming through okay? Anybody in chat? Always appreciate knowing that the audio's okay or anything's wrong. I don't exactly have like the greatest setup, so. Let's see here. Okie doke. By the way, if anyone wants to do me the favor of posting a comment where you put the timestamp or something for when I start actually talking about the subject, um, first one to post it, I'll just pin it. Because I know some people that watch are like, oh, God, like they don't know like, when I'm actually going to get into the thing. Because I usually wait like a few minutes before. Well, sometimes I'm just kind of lagging it and trying to figure something out, or I wait a few minutes before starting because I wait to see if a few people show up, because kind of the point is I want some engagement with people. Like I want them to say stuff. Thank you, chat, for that. And have, I want to hear their opinions and thoughts and such. So, okie doke. All right. Well, there's already like 6 of you here, so I might as well get started. It's not like I'm a big old channel. It gets a lot, but I have noticed there's been a few last couple of streams where I started hitting like 20 something, which like live, which is cool, I guess. Still, it's funny because the number goes up, but the actual chatting usually doesn't. It's generally the same people. Hey, we'll see. Maybe not. Bad object. I don't know that I've seen actually that name before, so maybe. I don't know. I'm really bad at remembering usernames for stuff, so I doubt anyone listening to me would take something like that personally, and if you would, then, well, there's nothing I'm gonna do about it. All right, so let me get the chat up. Go. And I can get the yapping. So, for this stream, I'm mostly trying to, I guess, vocalize some thoughts about stuff that I've been just constantly contemplating, so on and so forth. It's not unlike my usual streams in many ways. But I'm hoping that, I don't know, just some feedback or thoughts would be great. So, one thing that I've noticed, right, for those that don't know, there is a Schizoid server for Schizoid support. It's called the Zoid Void. Links in the description of the channel and below this, I think. And, there's an application process. There's that, and there's also another server that is not specific to Schizoid support. It's just basic for anybody that's interested in talking about whatever subjects I bring up or they want to bring up. And that one is called the Angsty Creatures channel, or server. So you can join that one if you're not a Schizoid, or you don't get into the Zoid Void, or whatever. There's options, right? Okay. So I was thinking about the subject that I brought up before, which is how do neurodivergent people versus neurotypical, whatever you want to call it, that spectrum of people, right? We're all human, right? So the only thing I'm saying when I talk about the autist and the schizo or the outlier, they're outliers, right? They're just a smaller portion of the population, right? They have significantly different, cognitive experience, and with that comes emotional attachments that are also kind of outliers in their own way, right? If your manner of thinking, if your default manner of experiencing reality and people and just life is significantly different, then what you become emotionally attached to is going to be significantly different. I don't think there's too much to be said about that. I think that's a pretty obvious thing, right? For that reason, as I've stated before, the types of things that would be traumatizing would differ, right? They would be significantly different. And the reasons for why those things would be traumatizing would also differ significantly. And I'm not just speaking like in a completely theoretical way. I've seen this countless times at this point. And it's not because I only talk to Zoids, right? And you already know my stance when it comes to the whole Zoid thing and its connection to neurodivergence. If you don't know anything about that, I have a video, not a live stream, but I have a video where I kind of briefly talk about it. Brief for me. And explain my position. Beyond that, though, because we get a lot of applications on the Zoid Void, we get a lot of people that, you know, they're interested in schizoid stuff, or they think, oh, maybe this is what's going on with me. We can't diagnose anybody, but we've been at it for a while now. I've been at it for years, and our record is pretty good. But because of that, we get a lot of people that are like autistic or schizotypal and stuff like that apply. And, you know, after a few questions, it's pretty clear, you know, they need support. Obviously, they need support, but it's not the support that could really be provided in that space, right? It wouldn't be the appropriate type of support. But nonetheless, because of these applications and because of interactions with people that, you know, all over the internet, I've met a lot of autistic people, and I've met a lot of schizotypal type people, and a lot of them, yeah, they have anxiety, they have depression, they have a lot of problems, right? But when you get down to it, how they define those problems, what caused them, what exhausts them, what frightens them, what causes this plethora of negative emotions that they experience, it doesn't really sound like what you usually hear people talk about. The way it's defined, the way it's sort of discussed, or what makes them choke up, what makes them uncomfortable, what makes them angry, right? All of those things are, I guess, I wouldn't say eccentric or idiosyncratic, just they're normal, right? They're normal. And I don't understand how, as I explained before, how that's not something that's pretty goddamn obvious. Like I can never say this word, but I love the word unfathomable. I always have trouble with that word. To me, that this isn't something that's already like being discussed and worked on. Like or that it's something that isn't an important conversation, or something that's like really, really being actively discussed in a lot of sort of psychology spaces, whether on the internet or otherwise. Right? I don't see much. And if you do see any, it's usually like in regards to autism or ADHD. So, for example, every time I've seen people that I guess you would kind of consider more a fear-based, like avoidance of other people, you know, they don't have the same sort of like disconnect from their feelings, or maybe not the same sort of you know, feeling of ambivalence or anhedonia and things like that, like the schizoid does, because that's how they dealt with their trauma. But, you know, they're more just neurotic and afraid and very concerned with fitting into society, fitting in with others, but not for interpersonal reasons. Right? Not because they fear social rejection, but because they fear the consequences of not fitting in, not being compatible, or viewed as socially competent enough to function in life with others, right? That puts regardless of their own priorities and emotional attachments in the world that are significantly different, that puts them in a, put it mildly, precarious position, right? And that makes them sometimes just terrified of people, scared to be around others. It's different than what you might consider, or is often discussed as, social anxiety. And that's what I'm kind of talking about, right? Being anxious around others, they often just kind of term it social anxiety. But how you define that anxiety and where it stems from, that's important. That's insanely important. So, makes sense, not dollars? Well, yeah, that's why I'm not a fan of capitalism. So, what ends up happening is they kind of just live with it, and oftentimes they mask and stuff like that, right? A lot of people on this sort of spectrum, neurotypicality, neurodivergency, mask, right? It's not just a schizoid exclusive. And they don't have the same issues as somebody that's schizoid, but they have the same preoccupation with needing to either stay away or mold themselves into something that won't come with consequences. In many ways, correct, Trudy. And so when I see people that are neurodivergent, or like, we'll just, the easiest example, like schizotypal or autistic, putting these applications where they have a fear of others, they mask, they are suffering, they need support, and it's not a person that managed it by having the defenses or adaptations that you find in the schizoid. It's tragic. It makes me, like, it hurts me. It hurts me to see it, because I'm like, this shouldn't be a problem. This shouldn't be a problem. There shouldn't be people walking around terrified of the consequences of not squeezing themselves into a proper box. It's frustrating. But I think the main thing I'm trying to point out here is that social anxiety is not it's not a conventionally interpersonal one that you're going to find with an incredibly nervous, autistic, or schizotypal-ish type person. They're going to isolate out of this fear of consequence, not a fear of rejection from a sort of conventionally social perspective. Right? Their preoccupations are still with the stuff that matters to them. Right? And in many cases, special interests. Right? Most autistic people that are high functioning, whatever you want to call it, it's a million words for it now. There's other things they prioritize or care far more about, preoccupy themselves with, and are emotionally attached to, that isn't social, right? And they have to dedicate a significant portion of their life to things that don't matter to them in order to just have the safety to be able to practice that interest, right, in any significant way. And oftentimes, going through life in this way, especially as a child and adolescent, is traumatizing. Most of the time. So, I wanted to talk a little bit about like how it sort of shapes, because there's no names for it. That's part of the problem. There is no name. I was put into a diagnostic box, will climb myself out bit by bit because I'm me. I don't want the box. I understand. I'm not a big fan of boxes either. Does the background music fade away if he doesn't talk? I don't know. It's not tied to my mic or anything. If it's too loud, I can like lower it, but I don't know. I'm not sure if it's a problem. I can like do this a little bit, maybe. So how does someone like myself discuss these things? Try to have a conversation, try to have a dialogue on the matter when there are no words. There are no words for what I'm describing. I can use words to describe it, but there is no definitive word for what I'm describing. No, because they said, does the background music fade away if he doesn't talk? So they're saying that when I'm not talking, it fades away, which is weird. I'm not sure. I don't think it was a joke. I think maybe it's some audio thing. Anyway, I don't know. Maybe I'm misunderstanding. So that's kind of what I mean. How do I have these discussions when I don't have words? So I have to make up my own words. Like the word macro-associative and micro-associative, coined by a friend of mine through discussion. Like those aren't real words. You're not going to find them in Webster's. You're not going to find them anywhere. Really, it comes in with me talking. That's weird. That doesn't make any sense. Maybe I should just take it off. I don't know. That's annoying. I don't want it to like stop just because I stopped talking. That is some weird stuff. Now it's bugging me because like I don't like that. What if I lock the volume? What does that mean? Does that do anything? Okay, now I don't know. I locked the volume on here. I don't know if that does anything. I have no idea. Anyway. So yeah, somebody has to make up the words. Yeah, well, yeah, that's the thing. Like, yeah, somebody has to make up the words. So yeah, macro-associative for the schizo and micro-associative for the autist. And that word was kind of made using the word associative, right? As in to associate. Yeah, right. They're associative. It is what you find to be associative. Right? The macro or the micro. And that's where the outliers exist. Because people aren't generally like that. That's not what they're about. They can think about that stuff. They can make it a really important part of their life, but that's not where they wake up in the morning and go to bed to. That's kind of the main difference. That's not what was going through their head when they were a kid. Right? That's not where all their emotional attachments, their strongest ones, exist. But anyway. So yeah, it makes it really difficult trying to have these conversations without having any proper words. Like, even if I try to have a discussion with somebody that is a psychologist or something, like I have to like explain all of this shit every single time. Like every single time. And I mean, that's all I can do. And then kind of discuss it in these kind of nebulous terms. And it's funny, I can't tell you how many like times I've had discussions with people that are into like psychology and stuff, and I say this, I go, I have to like break that down, and then they're like, that makes sense. Yeah, actually. And I'm like, yeah, right, it makes sense. The way you treat trauma, the way trauma is defined, created, the way it manifests inside of a individual that is macro and micro associative, it's just gonna fucking be different, and the way you treat it is gonna be different, and the way you teach about it is gonna be different. Like, I just don't. It's silly to me. The more social you are, the more time you spend on it. The less social you are, you have filled yourself with other thoughts, macro and micro both. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Yeah, for sure. Like, it's kind of like the difference between, like, when I talk about introverts and outroverts, right? Like extroverts, extroverts and introverts within, like, say, the more neurotypical world. They probably, the introvert probably does spend more time doing stuff outside of that interpersonal space, right? And they think more about macro and micro stuff, right? But their strongest emotional attachments and where it all started for them is going to be that sort of the more, I guess, the social world. Even if it's not, it's those social relationships, those social attachments are still going to be like prioritized, even if they have less of them, right? Some people are more fulfilled with a lot of socializing, a lot of people. Others are more fulfilled with a small amount. But nonetheless, the value they give it is highly important. It's just up there. But when you're talking about a macro microsociative person, that's going to be on the back burner. Whether they're more active and out there, or whether they're more isolated, that's just going to be on the back burner by default. Because you got other shit you want to think about. You got other stuff you want to ponder. You have other things you want to work on. You have other projects you want to do. That stuff is not. It's just not key. It's not the key to you having a healthy version of your life. And being told that it's a requirement to have a good life, to have it at that level of priority, in the way that the many people have, whether it's in preoccupation with the social regarding status, or regarding love, romance, and relationships of a sexual nature, things like that, right? Like, however you want to parse it out, right? It's going to be up top. It's going to be really important. Whether you're more selfless or selfish or whatever, it's going to be about that stuff. And for the people that exist outside of that, that's not number one. That's not even number two. Or it can be, but yeah, it's not. It's not what your day-to-day is. I can tell you that growing up myself. That's why relationships and anything like that was just weird, or they would fizzle fairly quickly. I mean, I often think about all the times when I was a kid that the only reason I wanted other kids to come to my house was to play multiplayer on a game, or to play a board game, or to, even when I was even smaller, it was like, oh, let's play with Ninja Turtles action figures, right? And that's all. And that didn't change. That didn't change when I got older. It stayed the same. It was the activity and the shared mutual interest in that activity. The older it got, the weirder it got, because it started becoming socializing, not the activity. And I think that is a very common experience for a lot of people that are macro or microsocial. That's when a lot of the bad times come, during like middle school and high school. That's when you really start realizing, oh shit, I don't know what the fuck's going on anymore. Sure, yeah. Introverted people are, I guess, a minority compared to extroverted people, but even introverted people can be neurotypical, right? And so more just, it's still about, it's so hard to define this. It still just comes down to that middle ground of social experience and in the value and emotional attachment you place on it. Like a lot of introverted people, they love their families, right? They don't have a lot of friends, but they're very very involved with their parents. They're very very involved with their siblings. They might be involved with a very small group of friends. Like and it's still, that's like so important to them, and that's how they define that friendship and that camaraderie and that connection, is through that sort of playing field. The way I define friendship is it sounds so weird to the average person when I describe it. I have a very different definition of what friendship should look like and what it means. Here's one example that I don't share, I guess, when it comes to how people talk about friendship. I don't care about, um, what's the word? I don't even know what you would call it. Well, yeah, it's an outlier, but it's sure, but that's a different conversation, right? I'm not saying, I'm not sure what you mean. Like a lot of things that are outliers, yeah, in a lot of ways, in a lot of situations and circumstances, to different degrees, right? So there's probably far more introverted people on Earth than there is, like, I don't know, microsocial of sort of autistic people on Earth. I get what you're saying, Trudy, but it, and that's why it's so difficult. There's no words for me to kind of describe what I'm saying. Okay, so one thing I don't understand about friendship when it's usually discussed or talked about, I don't understand sort of like conventional ideas of loyalty. I don't want my friends to be loyal to me because they're my friends. That's not, no. I want them to be loyal to who they are and what they're about, regardless of any attachment they may have to me. And if we are in congruence with those things, then we're just fine being friends. But I will not say, I would not expect them to, or expect myself to sort of uh, do anything to sort of bend my ethics or principles or priorities because they're doing something incorrect, they're doing something unethical. And this idea of, well, you have to be there for your friends and loyalty is, it's batshit insane to me. No. If I did something wrong, I do not want my friends to try to get me out of it. Right? If in fact it was something wrong. I would want them to call me out. I would want to be castigated for it if I did something wrong. I would want to be told. That sort of loyalty is just crazy to me. Reciprocity. That one's weird because I don't, like, for example, I don't, if I do something kind for a friend, I have zero expectations of something being reciprocated. Well, I'd rather deal with myself. No, but if it's a problem in which I'm, like, if somebody's causing me a problem and they want to help, I'm fine with that. But if I cause myself a problem, the way they would help me is by making sure that I'm put to task. That's how I would define that. One of my closest friends, he will hear me say something and go, that doesn't make sense. Like that you're thinking about this is off, and I'm going to tell you why you're wrong. And when they do, and I figure it out, I go, awesome, thank you. And they say, cool. I don't like the idea of people agreeing with me because they're my friend. I don't like the idea of people supporting me because they're just because of these reasons. I like there to be some kind of alignments there as to their own goals and interests. Oh, you get it? You get what I'm saying now, Graham? Yeah. So yeah, I don't like reciprocity of that kind is just weird. It's like it's such a weird foreign thing to me. Like of like I scratch my back, now you scratch mine, kind of stuff. It's weird. Like if me and a friend do each other a favor, it's just because we felt like doing it at that given point, at that given moment. It's not out of a feeling of expectation or anything like that. That's just so weird. But that's very normal for people. Like that's very commonly discussed, very normal concepts of the loyalty. I'm saying, concept like debt, like not debt, but like reciprocity is almost like a currency, right? That's really normal for people. I'm not sure what repreciation. Maybe I'm not familiar with the word. I don't know. Yeah, yeah, no expectations. Like the only expectation I have of like any person is just to be fucking, reasonably empathetic and not a big piece of shit and not just self-serving constantly and shit like that. Like, I mean, I guess that's all I expect. I don't actually think it's going to happen, but if it's a friend, that's how I would expect them to behave, because I don't want to be friends with people that don't have those things in mind already or prioritize those things to begin with. Like conscientious, if a person isn't conscientious, they'll never be my friend. If a person isn't considerate, they'll never be my friend. Oh, cool. Let's keep inventing words. I like that. Hey, I'm doing it. But yeah, if a person's ethics doesn't line up with mine, we're in the really important parts, like the most important parts, I'm not going to be their friend. If a person's ethics, principles change over time and they become unaligned with my own, I stop being that friend. I don't shape myself to their changing. I don't expect them to do it either. Like if Like I have a friend that is really we have very different views about certain things, but when it comes down to it, the core values and the core ethics are there, right? But if for some reason that were to change, I had told them, hey, if that ever changes, I'm not. I, you're just in my way as anybody else that is supporting those types of things. And luckily for me, I don't think I have to worry about that. But they understand. It's not the kind of loyalty I have for others. I have a loyalty to my what I believe is right. That's what I'm loyal to when it comes to that stuff. Like I've even told like and my wife knows this, right? Yes, I'm married. But if my wife, like, I don't know, did something, if she's the reason we're compatible is because she has very strong ethics and is very empathetic and stuff. But if she did something horrible, like, I don't know, she did a hit and run or something crazy, right? Like, and try to get away from the scene or something, and then she shows up and she's like, oh, we gotta make up a story. She'd never do that. That's just not who she is. Plus, she's an incredibly careful driver. But point is, I know. I'm calling the police. Sorry. I think that's just more important because it's better for you too. It's better for that person to face the consequences of their actions. And I'd expect them to do the same for me. So like those stories about like, oh, my kid killed somebody and now I'm trying to cover it up. I don't relate to that at all. I've heard so many people say that, like, oh, well, my kid did something like that. I think I feel the same, or I understand where they're coming from. I'd be like, no. No. The best thing I can do for them is for them to face the consequences of their actions. And obviously, I'm not talking like a lawful good, because if the laws are wrong, if the things are incorrect, if I deem certain laws or perspectives unethical and bad, I'm not gonna, like, if like we lived under some weird, like, don't talk badly about the state or something, and like my kid talked badly about the state, I'm gonna be like, well, you gotta face those consequences. No. Talk about real shit. Talk about real shit. Real shit. Yeah, but oh, as far as the conscientiousness go, yeah, Zoids are like super high in conscientiousness most of the time because they have such a sensitivity to their autonomy, or to autonomy. It's not even just sensitivity to their autonomy. Schizoids often have a strong sensitivity to autonomy itself, right? It's a very, very high value to the point where it doesn't just apply to their own. They don't like witnessing people having their autonomy stripped away from them. And sometimes it's to a point where it becomes detrimental to that person, that Zoid, because they might even defend a situation in which someone's autonomy needs to be temporarily halted, like if they're doing actions they shouldn't. Right? They'll play devil's advocate a lot because of that same kind of knee-jerk sensitivity that they'll often swear is an emotional in nature. But I understand why they would say that. But yeah, they're usually pretty. They'll stay, like, they're not going to go out of their way to do considerate things, but they will be considerate in most circumstances that they are involved in, because they don't want others to waste their time. They don't want others to make commitments they can't keep, and things like that. That's assuming they're like, it just depends. I would say that's more like an I don't know, that's a whole different can of worms, to be honest. Yeah, floaties, right? So yeah, so there's, I mean, look, if you're a schizoid, there's a good chance that you've lived life looking at the world going, why is it like this? I don't, it's confusing. It's oftentimes disgusting. It's sad. It's it's a lot of not so great things. And that the way oftentimes that's defined isn't because nobody likes me, or because I don't have a GF, or because I am looked down upon by others. Like, that's not why the world's so horrible. It's usually like the world is so horrible because humans do A, B, and C, and prioritize A, B, and C, and things are dictated by A, B, and C, and because it just makes no sense to you, it all seems pretty insane. That's I would say the one of the true sincere experiences of someone that's schizoid internally. It's just like, what am I doing? And all the stuff everyone around me seems to say is the important stuff. I don't get it. All the stuff I have to bust my ass to get, I don't want. So what am I doing? What is this? I don't want to be here. I want to go somewhere else. I want to be left alone. Right? I don't even see anything I can attach feelings to. In fact, my feelings, I don't know. For some, I guess. That's the experience. That's the experience. You wake up to mild amusement or annoyance, and go through the day with occasionally spurts of mild amusement and annoyance, with occasional highs of depression or frustration or anxiety, and then just kind of middle of the road. And I think for most schizoids, they also, then every step they take is toward, when can I be by myself again to do the things that I find mildly interesting or interesting. Like, when can I go back to doing that? I don't want to do any of these things. None of these things are rewarding. None of these things motivate me. Nothing is kicking off some fucking dopamine or anything. It's just, what is this? Oh yeah, that conscientiousness definitely, that, yeah, it does carry a cost. Yeah. Yeah. That's I think why a lot of schizoids, they are conscientious when they're put in positions in which they need to be, or they are involved, but they'll often avoid everything possible to not be put in a position like that, because they know the consequences of that conscientiousness, and they know that that conscientiousness is not something that's going to be sort of, I guess in this case, reciprocated. Right? That is an expectation, yeah. So I think that is a reasonable expectation to have of others. But it there's a lot of stuff in human culture that almost views conscientiousness as being weakness. And in the world we inhabit, it often is. And the fact that we live in that world is what's sick. But yes, being conscientious, being considerate in the world we inhabit, there's a reason they come up with the old saying, nice guys finish last, or whatever. You gotta be mean. You gotta be selfish. You gotta be this. You gotta be that. You wanna make it to the top. You wanna grow. Sometimes you gotta. That's why you get so many dickhead bosses. They bought into it. That's why you get so many dickhead leaders. That's why you get so many dickhead everything. Yeah. It's sad. It's fucked up. That's why when you meet a conscientious person, like a sincerely conscientious person, it is refreshing. It's pretty refreshing. It's nice. So yeah, I think it's a common. I think it's part of what I think having that kind of degree of it, even when younger, is what sometimes also ends up leaving you sort of detached and uninvolved and demoralized. Yeah, and you have to be careful of that because there are a lot of people in this world that are cruel. They certainly don't make up the majority of people. I'm not that ridiculous. But there are some incredibly cruel people. But there are also some incredibly just, what's the word? Egoistic, or like they don't even like realize that they're not being conscientious. They've told themselves they are when they actively are not. I can't tell you how many people I've met. It's wild. Or they're conscientious about what they define conscientiousness to look like and be like, what it's socially defined, right, to exist as. But it's almost like they're just following rules. One problem with expansive schizoids, they probably kill more people than narcissists and garden variety psychopath. Nah, disagree. Because how would they do that? I'm I I'm not. Explain what that is, because I guess I haven't. What is an expansive schizoid? I could see like a misanthrope, a, a misanthrope of some kind. I they're not. I don't believe that's just a narcissist. That has nothing to do with schizoid. I don't sign up for the Vatican school of schizoid thought. I think it's horseshit, if that's where that's coming from. Those are not schizoid. That is absurd. That is absurd. Lenin, Hitler, well, Pol Pot? No. No. It's a real thing in some parts of certain types of literature that I disagree with. That's insane. Ugh, God. Expansive schizoid. I don't even understand how to describe expansive. That's just a narcissist. That's just a malignant narcissist. Yeah, I've read a few books. I disagree with certain things. I agree with certain things. Most of the literature on schizoid is like well-meaning, um, but I think is getting a lot incorrect. But this idea of tying the schizoid to narcissism in any way, shape possible, it's just weird to me. You have seen malignant narcissists, yes. You have seen narcissists, correct? That's what you've seen. I'm not even sure what that would even be. I can't even imagine. As someone that like was very fascinated and interested in things like Lenin and Stalin, like I can't imagine how they would be associated in any way to fucking schizoid. Like that's a lot of mental gymnastics. That is that's not a schizoid without empathy. That's either I don't understand. There's plenty of narcissists don't have a lot of empathy. What? How does it tell me what makes them schizoid? I what? Because yes, there are narcissistic people that become misanthropes that then want to do things like, oh well, if I can't have this world and no one will, stuff like that, or the world must be shaped to what I desire, and like a bunch of other shit like that. Like that's not. What? You're saying they need to reshape the world because there's that averse to being around others? No. No, the schizoid finds external safety by just removing themselves. By becoming the more like activated, right, schizoid, when it comes to like creating a safe space for themselves. I know what those look like. They are not those people you're describing. That they're not psychopathic. I met them. You know what they are? They mask, and they are incredibly self-sufficient, and they try to succeed in life to eventually be alone. No, that's so stupid. I'm sorry, man. Whoever came up with that idea, no. You're not stupid, but that idea, awful. That is an awful idea. They detach, they create a space in which they can detach from the world. They don't try to reshape the world to make it safe. What? No. No, that's not how that works. No. The anhedonia and all the other issues that come with it are not going to make you become fucking Stalin. That's... They don't want to return to womb? What? Oh, man, we're going with that kind of psychology? Oh, jeez. No thanks, man. Sorry, I'm not gonna... I can't... It's frustrating when it turns into that conversation. All right. I want to go back to the womb, guys. That's my goal. I want to be safe back in my mommy's fucking womb. I'm just not a fan of that type of psychology and that kind of explanation for stuff like this. Oh, I know you don't agree. Hector, I know. I'm just saying the idea. Like, if I'm getting frustrated, it's with the idea. I don't care if people... I don't care about the people saying the ideas. The ideas frustrate me. because they're so just. I haven't seen anything to be the case for this. Like, there's so much in the literature that I've met more schizoids, diagnosed and otherwise, than any fucking human being ever has. And it is not the lived experience. It is not. Every single time I've met a person that says they're schizoid and they're like, they have like an actively hostile or malevolent sort of perspective about people, and like people should, like, all humanity should be dead, I want everyone should, like, I want to end this world, and like shit like that. It's always like this weird revenge, like vengeance kind of thing, and like all this sort of shit. It's like and then it becomes like people, you know, it becomes like a weird narcissistic thing. And I know it drives me crazy. I can't tell you on even the Schizoid server, like, yeah, that happens. Like they'll get attached to whatever label that doesn't make them have to deal with the actual problem, which is coming to terms with the fact that they often participate and do things that are not good and harmful to varying degrees. And dealing with that reality is part of working through the narcissism. But instead, they'll just like find other labels that can kind of make it easier to not do that. Can't tell you how often I see this shit. They direct their anger from self to outside. Why are they angry at themselves? Most schizoids I talk to are not angry at themselves. They're generally like either apathetic or somewhat ambivalent, or they see themselves as no better or worse than anybody else. They're just, everything is just kind of like, yeah, people are people and they're just people. I just don't understand why all these people want to do all these things all the time. I don't want to do these things. And I don't relate to it. How the hell is that going to turn into being Stalin? Or a Pol Pot? Usually, like, what I've seen, like, the type of people that, like, say a Pol Pot, right? They're oftentimes like an intellectual malignant narcissist. Like, it's often because it's suppressed. Bro, I've been working on myself for years. I ain't got none of that suppressed shit you're trying to apply. I'm not sure what you're talking about. Yeah, like intellectual malignant narcissists usually are what you're going to find when you get the people that are in, say, a high position of power that come up with some fucking idea about how the world should be, and then they end up killing a bunch of fucking people in the process. Yeah, that's what that's not a fucking schizoid trying to make the world safe for themselves. Yeah, psychopathic narc. What's this aggression about? Oh man, a bad object. Do you know what I talk about regarding like the whole neurodivergence in connection to how I think the schizoid is manifested and what's happening, like in that discussion? Like, do you know anything about that stuff? Like where I'm coming from, like my perspective on this, or is this like your first stream? Like, because a lot of the stuff I'm hearing is what I hear in a lot of the lit, well, some aspects of the lit and how that literature got interpreted by people that try to define schizoids as some kind of narcissistic manifestation. Yeah, that doesn't fit in. But narcissism can exist within, like, neurodivergent people too. Like, I've met autistic narcissists. I've met schizotypal narcissists. That's just another way, that's another means to cope with another type of trauma. But it's still coming from that, their narcissism isn't usually based on kind of conventional status concerns. You're schizotypal or schizophrenic? Because that's a whole different conversation too. It's a whole different mess. Like, what do you mean you're schizo? Like, in what way? Like, are you talking about you're like really macro-associative all the time and you wake up and go to sleep like that? Or are you talking about like you're schizophrenic and you have positive symptoms? Or schizoaffective or schizophreniform? Like, what do you mean? Because that's the thing with ADHD too. My thoughts on ADHD is that they can exist within this field of this spectrum I'm constantly trying to have a discussion about. Okay. Well, then I'm this is another thing I've seen too, and I'm not saying this might be your experience, but I have seen oftentimes schizoids in their search to figure out what the fuck is going on, they'll really like dig their heels into the literature available, thinking it's like authoritative or of far more value than it has, honestly. It's why cluster A is the odd and eccentric. They don't know what the fuck to do with them. That's all that means. They don't know how to really figure it out. So it's hard for me to put that much stock into literature created on a faulty sort of set of ideas regarding how to approach it and discuss it. Like, every time I've read most of the schizoid related, they're always trying to figure out how it's something else. I've never heard much about the expansive schizoid. If you want to point me to a book and you're on the Discord, send me a link. I will check it out. If you have a decent, like, just a decent book or author, or just give me like a book title or something, and I'll check it out. Because the expansive schizoid that turns into a genocidal, indifferent, unempathetic monster. Like, who's talking about this? Like, where is this? Because I don't remember reading that, like, Masterson or anything, or like, you know, I don't remember ever having a discussion on that topic with like Greenberg even, or any of the people I've talked to before. I've never even seen Nancy McWilliams mention anything like that. That's why I'm just like, because I hate to say it, but I just seen so many examples of like people that are charismatic or are narcissists, and they try to like shape their thing into other shit. Like, it just happens all the time. It's one of the greatest battles I have to deal with when it comes to discussing this topic. What? That's weird. I've never heard of that one either. The evil one? Yeah, Vatican. He's not evil, he's just stupid. Well, he might be evil, I don't know. He said some weird shit where, like, he really, like, has, like, he's talked about not having empathy and shit like that, so I don't know, man. Anybody that's like, I don't have any empathy, like, now listen to me. I have some good ideas. Like, I'm good. I'll go listen to other people's ideas. Thanks. The literature is kind of like the science. It's literally a clusterfuck, almost exclusively written by self-interest normies. It is a combination of no regards to social norms and grandiose ideas, not personal grandiosity. Yeah, but that's when you have a more... See, oh, okay. See, I was going to tell you this. Okay, I know what you're talking about, but that is not a schizoid, expansive schizoid. You know what that is? That is a schizotypal, malignant style narcissist. See, this is what I mean. Like, if you get somebody that's macrosociative, and they have trauma, and they have issues, right? And then they go the route of the grandiosity, the narcissism, but they're still preoccupied with that sense of the world, like experience, and with the external world. Yeah, they're gonna think that's how you get cult leaders. If we're talking about schizotypal type or macrosociative and narcissism, yeah, that's how you get like cult leaders that are sincere. I'm talking about the sincere cult leaders. I'm not talking about like the ones that are just like taking advantage of the position because they want power and control over others in this like interpersonal way. I'm talking about the people that have like grandiose ideas and beliefs that often involve like magical thinking and shit like that, that could have significant consequences on the people following them, because they are absolutely enamored with the idea that's in their head that they've created. They often will end up being the chosen ones, the ascended one, and shit like that, right? It's the same way. Yeah, that's not an expansive schizoid. That's like a person that is macrosociative and a narcissist. That's not an expanded schizoid. That's what I mean. Like, this is what I'm talking about. There's no words for what narcissism looks like when we're talking about a person that's schizotypal, macrosociative, whatever. There's no discussion about that. Utopia. Yeah. And with you know what you get, and I've had this discussion many times, you know how you get a autistic narcissist? And there's plenty of autistic narcissists in the world. It becomes like a sort of I have the correct ideas, I've done the math, and I know what it is and how it functions, and so on and so forth, and like, this is what order looks like, this is the correct system, and this is how it functions, and these are the steps, and it should be reinforced, and they'll just get really stuck on their competency regarding a specific thing to the point where it becomes a sort of narcissism. Because then their competency in that specific thing, that special interest, is what defines it. That would be narcissism with autism, or whatever you want to call it, because there's no word. They're actually preoccupied with the thing and their competency in the thing, not because of how others perceive them interpersonally or socially. That's like not even in the radar at all. That's how you would get like an unempathetic, scientist that just wants to know how the gears work, wants efficiency, wants that, and that's the priority. It's not because they want power. It's not because they want recognition. It's because this is efficient. And when they lack that empathy, you get people that do very efficient, very unethical things. Yes. That's how like that stuff manifests. That's the thing. That's not the same kind of narcissism when we're generally talking about narcissists. We're not talking about that. But then they'll oftentimes try to like get everything we understand about our understanding of, more conventional narcissism, and then twist it and shape it into something complex that becoming a cult leader that thinks they're ascended and God, they hear the voice of God, or a I'm not saying I know enough about his psychology, or like a Dr. Mengele, right? That's in it for the science and figuring things out, but ethics be damned. Empathy be damned. For science! You know, that kind of mad scientist type shit. They're in it for the science. So yeah, it's not this bit all fucking narcissism. This what drives me crazy. That's why most narcissists aren't like renowned, like they're usually more status oriented, like social status oriented. Schizoid is, I am bad, people are bad. Why are they bad? People are bad. In what way? How you define why people are bad is really important. How you define why the world is bad, that nuance is incredibly important. I don't want to expand myself. Why? Asking the question why and trying to parse out those answers, you will see that actual schizoids are not going to give you, they're going to give you a definition that is oftentimes going to be kind of, well, idiosyncratic. It's not going to be the same thing as feeling like seeing yourself as a bad object, like the way it's often discussed. No. Often what I see a schizoid say is, it's not that I'm bad, it's that I don't know why I'm here. I don't belong. What I am does not make sense for it to be here. Yeah, and oftentimes, if they describe themselves as being bad for other people, it's because they've been told that because of how kind of ambivalent or not involved as they're expected to be, they should be. No. I think this is too many loop-de-loops, personally. I think I honestly think that the psychological community or academia in the sense has done a disservice to the Zoid by creating these fucking elaborate goddamn webs of like fucking every kind of possible jargon and backflips. I think it's far more easily explained because it's not okay. I mean, do you think it is? Do you think it's your pathology that makes you feel that way? That the world is not okay and then you don't feel okay? You don't feel okay. Things are not okay for you. The world is not really okay. Is it okay? The world ain't okay. At all. Now what you do with that and how you perceive it and how you define it, that's what needs to be. The world isn't okay. It's funny because even my own psychologist, right? I'll have discussions with her. People are complicated and hard. Yeah. I know that. But the structure that the schizoid is being defined under and discussed is the wrong structure. Because the idea of neurodivergence of the kind that I discuss isn't even factored in. It's just not even a thing. How can you forget? How can something like that not be factored in? There's so many schizoids that got a diagnosis for autism and then later got schizoid, or they got schizoid and then got autist, or they got schizoid, but because, you know, they started talking more about their odd beliefs and thoughts and preoccupations, they got schizotypal. I may agree that the world is dangerous, not okay, but I live a life as if it's not dangerous is okay. Yeah, I would say most schizoids probably do that. They probably just live their life, and they oftentimes it's more of like a learned helplessness of like the world is just fucked and everything's, I don't get it, and it. Yep, total estrangement, dropped off at the wrong bus stop. People are weird and stupid. Not that necessarily bad. Yeah, and oftentimes it's not even a feeling of people are weird. It's a feeling of people are weird and stupid, and it's like a way to cope with it. But oftentimes it's a feeling of like, it's more like people are confusing and I can't relate. Most people I cannot relate to. They're confusing. They are heavily invested into a bunch of stuff that makes no sense to me. No, I don't think schizoids walk around thinking people are actively bad all the time. I don't think they walk around looking at people and going, those are all bad people. Look at all these bad people. I don't think they even feel that way. I don't think they just sit around going, the world is just evil or bad or malevolent. It's more about the shape of the world. It's more about how the world is guided and how everything is going. That is oftentimes has a more negative outlook. Schizoids can see the beauty in existence. Maybe not their own all the time, but they can see beauty. That's why they have rich internal worlds, as they like to call it, which is so frustrating because they oftentimes mix up maladaptive daydreaming with the whole rich internal world, as if fucking schizoids have a whole D&D game going around inside their head all the time. And maybe there are some that do maladaptive daydreaming and some that don't. There's plenty of schizoids that don't maladaptive daydream. Plenty. But yes, they'll have rich internal worlds about like what they think is beautiful, what they think is deserves more empathy, what they think is precious in the world, and the manner in which it's either overlooked or trounced upon is what makes them somber. Yes, there are schizoids that can see the beauty in people and in the world, but they just go, but I'm not built for it. Well, in the literature, they often kind of describe it as like a kind of, it sounds more like they're talking about maladaptive daydreaming, as if like they have like an alternate like world inside of them that they go to or some shit. But when I talk about it, I'm more talking about like they'll have a world, a vision of how the world could just be cause less suffering for like people, like just not me and my safety. It's just like, why do they do all this? It often starts as a, what's the word? A exhaustion, and then it could over time become an indifference. Yeah, I mean, yeah, schizoids are deep thinkers. They just think deeply about their special interests, and it'll vary depending on if they're more on the autistic side or on the schizotypal-ish, whatever side, the macro microsocial. Yes, they'll have rich internal worlds like that, because the interactions they have with the external world are often marred by constant unrewarding experiences and anxiety-inducing experiences and frustrations and so on and so forth. And it's not because of their pathology that those experiences are just so unrewarding, because they oftentimes have other things they find far more rewarding that they're not being constantly forced into. Yeah. I don't know. I have a very, very different view on this subject. And I just want to have discussions with people that are professionals, and I've tried for so long, and it's just so fucking hard. Well, it doesn't have to be, yeah, but like, see, when it's described like inner world of imagination, like it makes it sound like I'm sitting around thinking about like how I wish I was in a world where I was like a superhero or some shit, or I wish I was in a world where like I lived out in the forest with the trees and nature, and like I'm just sitting there imagining myself in a cool, fun cabin, isolated, like, right? Like, there's some people that do that. That's more like, that starts getting more into, and then just like, you know, their life passes by as they preoccupy themselves with that. That's more like maladaptive daydreaming, which I think schizoids probably do more than the average person. But I think, yeah, I could see that. But I think I did some of that when I was a lot younger. But yes, I will zone out. I will sit there and just contemplate things. And then, you know, it can become a problem in the sense that, oh shit, I forgot I have to do, I have to listen to you, the person talking that's telling me stuff that I never asked you to tell me. Sorry, I drifted off into my pondering about things that matter more to me than whatever you decided to approach me and tell me. All right. Anyway, what do we got here? Now we have people up their own behinds about my empathy. Empathy is incredibly important. Made up. It's made up. Empathy is made up. That sounds like somebody that doesn't have very much of it would say. I don't know what that means. Yeah, that's what I winter. Yeah, that's what I mean. Like that you could say that. I think it's just when you're talking about the schizoid internal world, the rich internal world, I think it's that. It's just constant. It's contemplating and pondering. You're just pondering and pondering and pondering all the time. Yes, there is because the stuff you're pondering is where all the stuff that you actually have some kind of even tenuous emotional attachment to exists. The subjects you're pondering, the things you're pondering. Yes. Because when you go out and step into the world, there isn't really much there for you to latch on to that makes you feel anything as much as the stuff you ponder. Huh. Now, it shouldn't be that way. Agreed. There are a lot of things in this world that could reward a schizoid, but it takes finding them and it takes discovering them, and it is not overcoming being a schizoid and then suddenly the fucking curtains open and then you see the importance and of finding a romantic partner and how that will like give you meaning and shit. Like, that's not what I'm talking about. Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah, it's no different than like other kinds of escapism. Maladaptive daydreaming is like its own kind of escapism. But it gets to a point for some that it's like not even like they're not actively sitting there and like doing it. It's just like they're always just drifting off into it. Yeah. And if they're leaning into it, they'll shape their life around it so that they just have more time to daydream. But maladaptive daydreaming isn't like it again. What are you daydreaming about? What does that look like? Where are the good feelings coming from in these dreams you're having? These ponderings. Where is it? Empathy is just what you think. No. What? Withers, what are you talking about? I can't repeat everything I said real quick. I forget it the moment I say it. But yeah, because ADHD and other shit be like that. I can't repeat verbatim. You'd have to like remind me what I said. Something. I have to look back in the recording. That's tough for me also. Literally empathy is just from the German in feeling. Okay. You get too tied up with linguistics there, Withers. Every word that anyone's ever said is made up. And the way people define words and the way that people eventually reuse words. It's just all about experience and trying to give words to it and describing it. Well, I don't think you should forget about the external world, but I'm kind of glad they're not good enough. Because we got to be here anyway. Oh, hold on, guys. My girl. Tell me goodnight. Hold on. Anyway, sorry about that. Empathy is super important. Yes, it is. Call it whatever you want to call it. Give it whatever word you want to give it. It's super fucking important. It's a lack of it, and the oftentimes the de-escalation of it, the redefining it of it as it being a weakness or something intrinsically negative by the culture, and that you see that in capitalism a lot. Yeah, that's the problem. I'm not saying empathy like I'm not talking about toxic empathy. I understand what toxic empathy can be. Yes, I understand what that is. I'm not talking about that. Well, no, because winter, it would be, I guess, some much more. It would be a world in which everyone's just doing it so that you reciprocate, not killing each other or hurting each other for just all atomized, individualized, egoistic reasons. Yeah. Yeah, but they were practicing it. Are you telling me that people weren't, they had no sense of wanting to, like, feeling things that other people are experiencing, or feeling like the pain of witnessing someone else in either physical or emotional agony. Like, you saying that oh, nobody knew what that, like, oh, what's that? People were just walking around, just all, fuck, get out, come on, man. Like, what do you mean? This is part of the human experience. And for a lot of people, for a lot of Zoids, because they're really detached, they still have oftentimes really strong cognitive empathy, right? And what they might help them over time and working on it is realizing that it's actually attached to a affective empathy that it's just been sort of drifted away from, detached from. That's why wouldn't you want importance to be attributed to it on a cultural level, on a social, like, why wouldn't you want that? The only reason it wasn't attributed before is because people were often living in conditions in which empathy was probably a fucking dangerous thing to possess. Or if you possessed it, showing it was exploitative, or other people would take advantage of it because everyone was fighting tooth and nail to survive, especially among the lower classes. So I know apes display empathy. Oh, well, everyone better start telling them that it's not important. Yeah, so that's why it's important, and we should support that. You make it sound like it's a negative thing the way you talk about it. You say, like, oh, it's just a fucking German word that got made up. Why this kind of very sort of antagonistic approach toward the word? You're not talking about it like, oh, did you like trivia? You're talking about it like it's nonsense that's being given too much attention. No, I get that. Okay, check this. And I've had this discussion. Where's my music now? I gotta go because I'm tired and I got other shit I want to do. But check this. You see this with animals, right? Non-human creatures. And or non-human animals, whatever you want to call it, however you want to call it. And when you put an animal in conditions in which their resources are not constantly being taken, they're not at odds with the external world for, you know, the basic necessities that they require, animals, even within a generation or two, will start having more time to think about other things. Right? They'll start displaying more play, right? They'll start displaying a lot more actions, especially if it's an animal that has a far, I guess, for lack of a better term, a greater intellect, or whatever the fuck you want to call it, right? And empathy becomes a staple, and then they become more, they're allowed to be more innovative, try new things, expand upon their existence, as they experience it, right? That's what humanity should be striving toward. If we're going to be fighting and dying and being active and doing shit, that's what it should be striving for. Right, and agreed, Don. But we have the tech, we have the ability to prioritize it more, and we should be going in those directions. and improving the conditions not only of our own existence, right, but of every living thing over time. We can't even take care of ourselves because we bought into a bunch of bullshit that keeps people at the top. Yeah, empathy is something discouraged within capitalism. The almighty dollar is more important than empathy. We prioritize money over empathy, yeah. And part of that reason is because of the culture and because of the conditions. I'd like to help the guy, but I have my own. It can be abused. Empathy can be abused. Yes. That's what should change. We should be stopping that. Empathy should not be something that humans go around thinking, I'm going to be exploited by others. And people that do that, that's what should be castigated, that's what should be shamed, and that's what should be structured against. Not this atomized, individual, egoistic bullshit. It's fucking stupid. It's bad for everyone. Except for the handful of people that want everything. Oh no, a bunch of people that want everything will be sad. I can live with that. I'll be just fine. And I think most people will be just fine living with that fucking group of people that think they, you know, if I can take it, it's mine and I earned it. Okay. Yeah, I'm okay with marginalizing them. Yeah, fine. Sure. I'm absolutely okay with marginalizing people that would actively marginalize people for their own gain. Yes. Yes, that is a group I am okay with marginalizing. I doubt angst evil. I want everything group of people exist. Yeah, that group should be like helped to get over that shit, or let them have their own little fucking place, or they're gonna have to figure out how to get over that shit. That's as simple as that. And we should be creating a culture that doesn't raise that in status and value. We should not be celebrating that. We should be seeing it as abhorrent. We should be, an aversion should develop culturally to those things. That's why I hate like naturalistic fallacies about like human nature. I fucking hate that shit. Oh, well, it's what we evolved to be like. So? Override that shit. You have a brain capable of abstract thought. Override it. We have clouds. Culture is a cloud. Use it. It's a cloud. You're saving shit on the cloud. Yeah, that's the thing too with the Western winner take all. Yeah, it's fucking cancerous. But also in the Eastern world, you have the you don't matter. It's all about the collective. It can be, culturally or socially, that could be just as fucking horrible. Both sides of that can stop prioritizing empathy. You don't matter because you're just a cog in the machine. versus all that matters is you. Both of those can be very low empathy kind of driving cultures. And like I said, I'm not promoting toxic empathy. I'm not saying when you have, you know, I don't know, I guess the barbarians at the gates, you should be like, well, let's try to understand them while they're trying to like fucking burn your shit down. Now, if you have the technology to sit down and try to understand them because you're like, you've superseded in their ability completely to do anything against you, then maybe you could take a whack at it. But no, I'm not a pacifist. I'm a pacifist I am a pacifist once the conditions allow for pacifism to not get everyone killed. Yeah. That's when I become a pacifist. Oftentimes, if we're talking about the schizoid, Lily Two Rose 4444, and we're not talking about like, oh, because you're a bad object or something. If we're talking about the schizoid, it's usually because the manner in which the empathy is being given is not the type of empathy that makes sense to receive. Oh, you're telling me Rome emphasized empathy? Is that what killed them? Yeah, because it was too big and they didn't have the tech. Got way too big, hard to manage. They didn't have fucking internet. Yeah, and how would you do anything about the corruption if you have no means of communication that extends across the empire? It's just, yeah, they lack the tech to have an empire of that degree. And the culture wasn't exactly one that like emphasized anti-corruption, really. Especially among, there's still a class system there. Anyway, so, no, the empathy thing. Yeah, because I got derailed. But, with the schizoid, when they feel weird about people giving them empathy, it's because usually what they're empathizing with is not, what they need. Like, it'll be like, it's sort of like this. Here, I'll show you an example of somebody empathizing with me that just like is aversive. Like if somebody sees that I'm just kind of like glum and or somber or just like look depressed or something. Sometimes I'm not. I'm just in thought. But like if they see that, you know, they'll try to empathize in the incorrect ways, in ways that aren't like incongruent with my experience, right? Because they're doing it in a way that makes sense for most people, right? So they'll attempt to do things to try to make me feel better that actively either just frustrate me or don't do anything or make me feel worse. They'll bring up points or ideas on or try to relate to me in a way that's inconsistent or not my experience in a significant way. And then I have to deal with both, you know, feeling like shit and making sure I don't hurt their feelings, because they're trying to be empathetic toward me. And now I have to like manage to recognize their empathy, but the empathy they're displaying is not actively like improving my conditions. So I'm just like, now I just got another thing to do. On top of being depressed about the thing that I'm depressed about. Right. That's why, like, when I receive empathy from one of my good friends, that's you know, similar in a lot of ways, about like this stuff. The way they display empathy toward me is by sort of discussing the thoughts that are in my head about the subject matter and then like breaking it down and looking for other paths within that system of thought. And then like that's them trying to help me find different paths and options. Like that's yeah, that's useful. That's good. That can make me feel better. Right. Like, I can't tell you how many times my real good bud, who's more on the autistic side, has like helped pull me out of like a one less layer of depression that day, because they helped me see different perspectives that I missed or overlooked. And then they find them, and then they're like, what about this? And like, that's something there. That's inspiring. Yes. And it's like, thank you for that. I feel better. And they're like, and that's it. I'm not a real person. Yeah, there can be that bad belief. Yeah. Well, and oftentimes that belief was reinforced by the interpersonal experiences they had around themselves. Like, right. Like, it's what happens when you're a kid and you have thoughts and questions that make other people, because of their culture or because of politeness or whatever, uncomfortable. Then they start behaving toward you like you're a bad person. And so then it turns into like a situation where just like some Zoids end up feeling like they are like broken, like their brain is broken, and so then it's better if they just keep to themselves, because there's just no compatibility there, no matter what they attempt, no matter what they try. Right. And yes, I've seen that sometimes occur. Yeah. The type of loneliness I see most schizoids suffer with is existential in nature. There's an existential loneliness. Because as much as they don't like when I say this, many schizoids are oftentimes trying to connect with their fellow sentient life that they see and experience things through, like through media, through art, through literature, STEM, a variety of ways. The thoughts of men and women all over the world, put to audio, put to books, put to art, put to whatever. Active. It's because our inner selves feel more real than our social. No, it's because our inner selves are who it is we are. And when we try to put that inner self into the world, we get back 404 error, page not found. That's what happens. That inner self is real. They just struggle their entire lives trying to be able to put it somewhere where it makes sense. That's what I think would help most schizoids, is finding that. That's what would help. But that is a tough thing to do, and the only way to do it, in my opinion, is to find other neurodivergent people that are kind of on the same wavelength as you, that have maybe some similar experiences, but they can have those discussions and can have friendships and connections with you that are intuitively empathetic of your sensitivity to autonomy. Like a friend you can parallel play with, essentially. Parallel play is like one of the best ways for a schizoid to experiment with attempting to establish more connections with other humans, is interacting with people that have the parallel play is something that's very enjoyable and very okay and very normal for that person already. Yes. That's how they make yes. That's why I think that's what needs to be talked about and emphasized. And I think the idea of detouring into all this like psychological jargon in an attempt to figure it out is it's not doing shit, and it's being structured in an incorrect way. And it's leaving schizoids with nowhere to turn but themselves and inside. Ooh. By the way, the BPD thing, don't get me started on that. Like when it comes to schizoids and they're often getting into relationships, even like falling into relationships like through circumstance, friendships with people that have BPD, that is more common than you think. And it always falls apart, and it always ends in tragedy. Yeah, winter, yes. That's what I advocate for. That's what I advocate for. That's what I want the Zoid Void to be. I want that server to be that. Now, to get the fucking schizoids to stop lurking, that's really fucking hard. Right? And when we see users that are not conducive to that, that's when we start having issues. Yeah, and then you try again, and then you try again. But your chances of success increase. You're not going to like every schizoid you ever meet just because they're a schizoid. Like, that shit's not going to happen. There's plenty of people that, you know, have this issue that I don't like. Borderline surrounding sound like at least favorite to people. Well, it just depends on how. Oftentimes, a schizoid ends up in a situationship or something, or a friendship, you want to call it that, with somebody that has BPD when they don't really understand what that is or what it looks like. Even if it is a friendship, right? And it would have to be a friendship where, for it to even be like okay, you would have to not be the special person. The problem is that the schizoid often becomes the special person, whether it's just friendship or it's romantic interest. And the reason they become the special person to the BPD person is because because there's no what's the word, sense of danger there. Like there's no they're not creating or in circumstances in which those insecurities would be constantly popping up, right? Because I was in a situation, a friendship of this kind, and so because of the kind of ambivalent and sort of like aloof nature of most schizoids, all they want to do is to be able to do whatever they want to do and be cool. And if the BPD person thinks, wow, this is a really cool person that I don't feel judged, or I don't feel like they're going to reject me, I don't feel like they're just kind of whatever, and like I want to make it so that they can do whatever they want. So I'll leave them alone when they want to be alone. I just want to sit here and watch you play the video game. I just want to sit here and watch the movies you want to watch. I just want to quietly sit here and then on top of that, it's like, wow, this person doesn't have any friends, or they have kind of a negative outlook on these things, and so I must be special because they tolerate me. They want me. They're okay with me being around them. And so then they'll like cater to that schizoid sensitivities and not impose anything upon them until it becomes a problem. Because because once the BPD person discovers that the schizoid person that they've grown attached to isn't attached, they're not just aloof and hiding it. They're not like an avoidant sort of dismissive attachment person. They're just literally like kind of like just there. And maybe they're cool with the BPD person because you have like mutual interests, or like or they give you a space where you could just be like whatever, and or they'll parallel play with you or something. Like once they discover like, oh wait, this isn't gonna like turn into anything, right? It's not gonna become the thing I'm dreaming it's gonna become over time. It's always gonna be, it's gonna just be like this. That's when it becomes bad. That's when things go sour real quick. Because, you know, if they have a bad day, they want to tell you about it. They want you to listen. They want you to like, you know, hold them or something. And they might think, well, I'm the special person that they care about, so I think they'll do it for me. And then it's like, whoa, what are you doing? What is this? Like, or it's like, okay, I guess we're doing this now. Oh man, what have I got myself into? Oh, okay. Okay, hopefully that doesn't happen a lot. Okay, I'm gonna go back to doing this, and maybe we could play that game later. You said you like. Cool. And then you just get back to it. But then more, they want more, and you can't provide it. It's just not what you're about. And then you're just trying to find a way out of the situation. Yeah. And you're trying to make it like you're trying to keep them stable so that you don't have to deal with what you got yourself into. Yeah. Like I said, it ends up working out at the beginning when the BPD person is perfectly satisfied with the fact that like you're not giving them attention because there's no threat, because you don't give anyone attention. But the fact you're giving them any, it makes them feel special, and that feels good for somebody that suffers with that. So, yeah, like I said, the only time, I have somebody that has, I know somebody that has kind of issues like that, and the only way, us having any kind of like camaraderie or any kind of like friendship or whatever you want to call it is, one in which they're fully aware of their stuff, they're fully aware of mine, and that doesn't happen. There's an understanding that if that ever does happen, I'm out. And if that's something they respect and navigate because they're working on their own shit, then maybe there's something that could be like, kind of like what you were saying, bad object. Yeah. All right, I gotta go, guys. Like, I got other shit to do. I'm tired. If you enjoyed this, if you thought what I said was interesting or want me to do it, you know, once in a while, yeah, support me on Patreon. If you don't like Patreon because they're stupid and hate money, I have a Ko-fi or Ko-fi, whatever you want to call it. If you like PayPal, you know, throw a one-time at me. That stuff's great. If you're somebody that's diagnosed, you know, or like if you're somebody that's vibing with the kind of approach I have and the discussions I'm having regarding schizoid stuff, and you consider yourself or you are diagnosed schizoid, I would say I do coaching and I can't help. And if you need somebody to talk to, that will be kind of pretty clinical if you need me to be about it, and just have a discussion and answer questions and go back and forth and shit like that. I provide that service. Not a lot of people take me up on it, but when they do, it's both useful to me and them usually, because yeah. But that's why I say, if you vibe with what I'm saying, my perspective on it, because otherwise, like, if you come at me in this like perspective that I completely don't understand or disagree with, and that's how you want to be helped through that lens, that's going to be tough, because I don't work through that lens. But yeah, I don't charge a crazy amount, even though a lot of coaches or whatever, people that do that kind of shit, charge like absurd amounts of money. Usually for me, it's like $30, 30 bucks an hour. So you set aside, you're like, hey, I want to talk to you for like 2 hours straight about this shit in my head. And I'm vibing with the struggle that you're describing. And I need to figure some shit out. I can do that. Done it before. I ask a lot of questions. And you can ask a lot of questions. So it's all good. I guess that's it. Later, nerds. And as usual, when day is dark, always remember, happy day. Except for when you need to get fucking mad. That's okay too.